Okay, this video is called Why I Am Skeptical of Animal Rights. I do think people should be nice to animals, and I don't like the way the CAFOs, concentrated animal feeding organizations, treat their animals. What I personally would like to see, though, is I wish there were millions more small family farms with chickens and other livestock. Now, you might ask, why do I say this? And I will tell you, I've been around a long time, and I know a lot of farmers, and they are great people. They're hardworking people. They try to provide food for their families and for the public. They do us a great service. We should appreciate them more. As Thomas Jefferson had said, the country really should depend on these small family farms, and they create a lot of sustainability. They'll use organic methods, and they provide resilience. They're available. You have an option. You can just go to your neighbor who's a family farmer and buy food, and that's a valuable thing because most Christians don't read it, don't know it because they haven't read history. But if you read history, it has been very common for over the past 100 years, and even before that, but especially the past 100 years, that there have been major, big movements to starve Christians to death. Okay, if you study history, this is obvious. Many, many millions of Christians died in the 1900s by being starved to death by so-called environmental type cow, moon, and then the next word is east. Okay, they use that as a standard method for diminishing the number of Christians in a country. Okay, and the animal rights movement is very closely tied to what one would call the environmental movement, if you will. And their real goal is to starve Christians to death, okay? They don't really care about the environment. That's nonsense, okay? And in my experience, a lot of these people don't really care that much about animals. It's sort of a front, okay? They want to get rid of the meat production system, and then simultaneously the plant food is being damaged in many big ways. First of all, the water is polluted with F- fluoride and with aluminum, okay, and with tons of estrogenic chemicals, and it's not properly filtered, standard tap water. The soil is heavily polluted now with these flying overhead trails, okay. That's being done to damage the soil, and some of this other so-called climate. Then what comes next? Control, okay. And then while they're destroying the animal production, food plants, and capacities with all these mystery fires, then the next thing that happens is a lot of the plant food is being then sunned by stuff like AP, then eel, okay? You think that's an accident? Okay, you're taking away the meat supply and then you're destroying the plant supply of food. That's a combined effort, okay? The other thing I notice about these animal rights people, I never once seen any of them, say that abortion's a bad thing. I never once heard any of them talking about the fact that the, babies that have lost their lives in this way, hundreds of millions of them, are being, sent to like the equivalent of auto chop shops, and they sell their parts, and these Hollywood celebrities drink their, their blood, okay? And that's cannibalism, okay? I never heard one of them complain about that. I never heard any of them complain about trafficking, kids, children. I never heard them talking about no-fault divorce, giving ADHD amphetamines to children, the F- in the water, the fact that women aren't allowed to take more time off than 3 months to nurse a baby when really they should nurse the baby a minimum of 6 months, okay? These animal rights people, in my experience, they care a lot more about animals than people. I care more about people than animals, okay? And they don't seem to have a problem, from what I've seen, with the big movement from the cow, then the moon, then the East party to starve Christians. I've never heard one of them speak negative about that, okay? Lenin talked about this extensively, Stalin used it extensively, and then the other commies in other countries copied them, okay? The animal rights movement, from what I've seen, is largely an attempt to starve Christians, and people should be aware of what it's really about, okay? And there's other things you'll see. They're forcing farmers to get rid of their livestock for some made-up disease. They go, oh, there's possibly a disease. Get rid of all your livestock. And then they go, oh, the hunters should not eat the deer because the deer have all these communicable diseases. We should get rid of the deer. It's like, give me a break, okay?